Let me ask you something, and I actually want you to think about it. When was the last time you were completely 100% honest with yourself? Not the version of you that shows up to work, not the version that shows up that texts people saying, "Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?" Not the one performing okay for everyone else's comfort. I mean the real one, the one at 2 a.m., the one that's tired of pretending, the one you keep locking behind everything else. That one. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Parker. I run this little channel here called Capital Thrills. It's about theme parks, travel, overall, just having a good time and that sort of thing. And that's all real. I genuinely loved all that stuff, but there's a version of me that doesn't make it into those videos, and it's a version I spent a long time pretending that doesn't exist. I'm 22 now, and I know what some of you might be thinking. What does a 22-year-old have to know about being broken about, or things of that nature? Here's what I've learned. Pain doesn't ask for your age before it shows up. I'm the youngest of four, the rebel. If you ask my family, I'm the quiet one. If you ask most people, the one who seems fine. If you ask pretty much everyone. See, I grew up in this church, alright? I was baptized, I believed, and I still do it, but in my own way. And sometimes along the line, I started to notice something that I couldn't unfeel. The loudest people in the room that spoke about love were sometimes the least loving people in the room. And I couldn't figure out how to reconcile that. So I stopped pretending I had. I kept my faith, but I dropped the performance of it. That's the kind of the thesis of everything I'm talking about in this series, or I want to talk about. And if anybody watching this has anything they'd like me to cover or has stories of their own they'd like to share, please go ahead. I'd love to listen to and talk about it, if for no other reason because it helps me keep myself in check and build myself up. And I'm sure it feels good for you guys to know you are not alone. Anyway, the point is, I'm done performing, or at least performing to be somebody else. So, the truth is, I've been fighting an internal war for years. A mind pulling in opposite directions, a body trying to hide the damage, and a soul that's lost itself trying to figure out what's actually right and wrong versus what I was told was right and wrong. You see, there are three versions of me running around at any given time: the person I want to be, the person I pretend to be, and the person I don't let anyone else see. And it's all exhausting, keeping all three of them from colliding or butting heads, whichever way you want to call it. And so, some of you might not know this, although I'd imagine most of you don't. I got a job at Kings Island, and if you guys don't know what that is, it's a theme park that's near me. It's chaotic, has lots of different rides, different people, all that sort of stuff, and it was the best decision I ever made personally. And it cracked me open in ways that I wasn't really ready for, because when you're surrounded by people, real ones who actually care about you and you can connect with and you feel similar to, you start to feel things you'd gotten good at not feeling. And one of those things involved a person. I'm not going to name her name or anything like that. Just for privacy's sake, and also just I don't feel a need to. But anyway, the point is, I created a chapter, let's just say a chapter in my journal called Unsent Messages and Unspoken Endings, and it wrecked me to write all of it, to be completely honest, and we'll get to covering all that in good time. But anyway, so I started writing something, and I don't know what to call it: a journal, a confession, me screaming back into a blank page, hoping it echoes back something and makes sense. And I called it Rebuilding While Bleeding, because that's what this actually is. At least that's how I felt. Not waiting until I figured out to start talking about it. Doing the work before the wounds are closed, if that makes sense. And don't get me wrong, this series isn't a self-help. I'm no therapist. I haven't figured it all out. If anything, the more I dig, the more lost I feel. But in a way, that feels more honest than the certainty I used to fake. What I do know is this: the person you hide at 2 a.m. deserves to exist in daylight sometimes. Even if me talking about this war helps someone feels less alone in theirs, then all of this is worth doing to me. And since all of this has been happening, I've learned that your enemies can be your greatest teachers, that the people who hurt you the most sometimes shape you in ways that people who love you can't. I've learned that being kind doesn't mean being a pushover, that faith and doubt can't exist in the same chest, that you can love someone completely and still have to let them go. And I've learned that rebuilding yourself isn't a straight line. It's messy, it overlaps, you have setbacks. But at the end of the day, you're rebuilding while you're still on fire at times. Anyway, so the overarching thing here is that this series is going to be real conversations, real chapters, real mess. I want to talk about identity, about love, loss, about faith, doubt, about people who broke you and the ones who saved you, and sometimes those being the same person. About how to find yourself when you spent years performing a version of you that was never really you. And to be honest, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't have the answers, but I've got this journal, I've got honesty, and to combine it all, I've at least got a theme park, or at least I've got something building in the background just to help aid in the process and hopefully to bring us all together. So anyway, if you have any comments or thoughts, want to share your story, or just want to be along for the journey as I ultimately transition into a much stronger version into myself, and maybe I'm already there, I would love it if you would just stick around with me and give me your insights and stuff. I'm going to try to be as open and vulnerable as I can be. But obviously with not putting everything out there all at once. And I hope this wasn't too much of a change. Anyway, I hope you have a blessed afternoon. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next episode. Whether it be something along this kind of a series or something completely different,